Some days you're unstoppable. Other days, you can't start the simplest task. And every time that happens, you're tempted to think there may be something wrong with you, that you may have a mindset problem. But you don't, because mindset problems do not exist. I'll say it again. Mindset problems don't exist. And no elite operator in business ever became successful because he trained his mindset. Elite founders don't work on their mindset to get things done and become successful. World-class surgeons don't journal about the limiting beliefs to improve the performance. And Navy SEALs don't do affirmations when dropped under enemy fire, because none of that helps when stress is high and pressure is real. What they do is to train something different, something that 99% of founders never do, but it makes all the difference. Now, quick pause. If you're actually serious about executing with peak clarity, focus, and consistency every single day, we've worked hundreds of founders, remove procrastination and burnout by about 90%, triple the productivity within about 6 weeks, and we're rated 4.7 on Trustpilot. So if you truly want to succeed fast, the easy way, book a call with us. But let's first start with the average mindset advice that you have received. You have been told to think positive, that every time you feel terrible, you must push through and stay positive. Yes, you actively battle negative thoughts, but without having the capacity to deal with them. So you force yourself to override them until you hit your limits. That's the first mistake. The second mistake is when you follow these morning priming gurus who tell you to affirm in the mirror that you're confident, that you're capable, as if you would magically build courage just by shouting at yourself in the mirror. But your subconscious knows that's bullshit. And that gap between what you tell yourself and what you actually believe is real about yourself creates something called cognitive dissonance. And it burns your ability to really believe in yourself, because you're still dreading the sales calls you need to do at 10 a.m. You still hate the idea of doing outreach. So you're not really priming confidence. You're really draining your ability to actually get the right things done. Or when you're told to journal your limiting beliefs, when you sit down to write what's wrong with me, what this does is to encode the very idea that you have a problem in your brain. Every time you journal about why you're stuck, your brain reinforces the idea that you're stuck. So you're not really processing that. You are literally rehearsing that stuckness. And these practices, which sound good, they're really harmful because they make you worse under pressure. So what is the alternative? If mindset advice typically doesn't work, how do elite performers become elite at what they do and they're so successful? Well, they do something much more profound. For instance, when a Navy SEAL enters a dark room, he's not thinking about positive thoughts. He's running protocols that he's drilled 10,000 times. When a surgeon encounters complication mid-procedure, he doesn't just visualize success. He literally executed the same sequence his hand knows automatically. And when elite founders hate chaos, they don't meditate on their feelings. They rely on their capacity that they've built through deliberate stress training. They couldn't care less about their emotions, and they're optimized their execution when it matters most. So they don't train their mindset. They literally train their performance capacity. And it's completely different from mindset work in 3 very specific ways. First is falsifiable. See, mindset work can never be disproven. If you do some mindset practice and then you're successful at whatever you're trying next, mindset gets credit. But if you fail, you're going to be told that you didn't believe hard enough or that you have subconscious block. It is a perfect scum structure. But capacity training on the other side is binary. You either executed on what needed to be done or you didn't. Either you made that tough decision or you didn't. Either you increased your heart rate variability or you didn't. There's no excuses. There's no bullshit. It's literally measurable. Difference number 2 is that it is goal-oriented, or Aristotle will say teleological. See, elite performers don't train capacity in general. A surgeon also doesn't train generic focus. He trains specific hand-eye coordination and decision speed required to do a specific procedure in a specific time frame. Same with you. If you're 100K a year and you want to hit 2 million out of recurring revenue, there's a specific capacity cap. There's literally 4 times more cognitive loads at 4 times your revenue level, more decisions per day, higher stakes for decision, longer requirements for focus and consistent execution. But you don't get there by affirming you're worth 2 million. You get there by measuring the gap and closing it. So you're not training capacity in the abstract, you're literally training the exact bandwidth you need to get to the revenue level that you're targeting. And the final and most important difference is that it rewires your brain, because mindset work tries to change your thought, but it stays surface level. Capacity training rewires your nervous system response to threat at a neurological level. And what you repeatedly train execution under stress, under pressure, under resistance, you're just not building discipline. You're literally changing your brain networks. So every time you execute when you don't want to, you're reconditioning how your brain interprets that specific task. So your brain over time learns to just do the thing, irrespective of how you feel, by leveraging brain's ability to rewire itself, which is called neuroplasticity. And the beautiful thing of this is that capacity gains are permanent. Mindset breakthrough are temporary, and that is why elite performers can operate at levels that break untrained people. I urge you to embrace this new paradigm, because you've been taught to optimize your state, to think positive, to do affirmations, but you've never been told to rewire your brain at the root. And how I typically work with my clients, we do it in 4 specific stages. Step number 1 is first, understand what needs to be trained. We must measure what you can handle today, not how you feel about it, but your actual capacity. Because most founders think they have a discipline problem, but they don't. They literally have, for instance, a brain that cannot focus for more than 15 minutes, or a slow decision-making process that takes 1 week to make 1 decision, or inconsistent behavioral patterns that help them have 2 productive days and 5 days of resistance, right? This is the exact capacity gap that we need to first identify in order to then train. So once we know what should be trained, step number 2 is to systematically close the gap. Once we know the gap, we train it. Because if you can't stand the resistance comes from doing the necessary work, you will not get where you want to go. But you can turn 15-minute focus blocks into 90 minutes. You can turn inconsistency into 7 out of 7 consistency every single day. You can train 7-day decision latency, as we call it. So you take 1 week to do 1 decision to just make decisions the same day. Then step 3 is to train under resistance, right? You don't wait to feel ready. You train yourself to execute when it matters, irrespective of when does it matter. And finally, step 4 is to remove what I call cognitive waste. So remove everything that doesn't need to be done or even thought of at all. So for instance, unnecessary decisions. You must delegate and automate everything that does not require your specific input, or eliminate context switching. So this multitasking that keeps your brain in high gear but really unable to focus to anything, or remove any source of friction, any source of noise, any source of distractions from your environment. This frees your bandwidth to actually focus on high revenue work. And this is what creates a breakthrough, because you're no longer stuck in the same loop. You're no longer the bottleneck in your business. And this is not mindset work. This is mental fitness. And it is measurable, it is permanent, and it is a measure of your performance engineering. So let me give you an example of how does this look like. Imagine a founder is stuck right below 150K a month for like 3 years. He wanted to push through that revenue threshold, but he couldn't. He tried every single strategy under the sun. Once we run our diagnostics, we realized that his focus was all over the place. He could focus for like 12 minutes. He took 3 days to make a decision. He had like 2 to 3 productive days per week, and he had been stuck for like 120K a month for like 3 years. Within 8 weeks, we pushed his ability to focus to 90 minutes at a time. We trained him in making decisions within the same day. He had 6 productive days per week, and he rested the 7th, and the revenue finally reached 160K a month. And what changed? His capacity to handle the work that needed to be done to cross that revenue level. So if you want to stay stuck, keep treating the execution problems like a mindset problem and affirming things until magically something makes you realize that's not the way. The best way is to build capacity, is to stop working on your mindset and start building the mental fitness, because you don't need to work hard. That's a measure of your mental fitness. Now, this can take you a lifetime, or it can take you about 6 weeks if we train you with a system that we have been perfecting for 8 years. But realize that what you need is not mindset coaching, it's performance engineer, which is KPI driven, science-based, measurable, goal-specific. That's what makes elite operators elite. It's not how hard they work, but how much they have trained themselves to do what matters when it matters most. See you in the next video.